So, welcome everybody. Today we are hanging out with Willow B. And Willow reached out to me after listening to a few of the telepathy tape conversations that I was throwing up there on YouTube and wanted to share about her out of body experience. And I'm so excited because this is exactly why I was creating those little videos to begin with, is to have these conversations with normal people that are fitting into the world, functioning, and having these kinds of experiences to normalize the experience for everybody else. So I'm super psyched. Thanks for joining us, Willow. And thanks for the courage to come on and share your stories with people.
Thank you, Zara.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
So you said you had a few out of body experiences, OBEs.
Um, yeah, well, one was very definitely an OBE, and the other ones were dreams that weren't dreams.
Yes, I've had those. I haven't had any OBEs that I'm aware of, but yeah, I've had the dreams that weren't dreams. Yeah, so let's hear it. Let's hear whatever one you want to share.
Absolutely. And I just want to say I love how you just mentioned um, having normal people come on and just, people who are getting along in society to tell the stories and normalize it for everyone else. That's the whole reason that I'm talking about these things, because after the first experience, I didn't tell anyone until I had the OBE. And in the OBE, I was actually invited, encouraged to start telling people about that experience, which to me ties together with the others. And I'm a licensed psychotherapist in private practice. I am functioning in society as far as I know. If we can normalize it for everybody else, that's great.
I grew up early 70s and 80s, and the culture back then was like, you just don't talk about this stuff. It's you're crazy if you talk about this stuff. It doesn't exist. And in my immediate circle, it was like, if you're not Catholic, you're going to hell. So don't be talking about that stuff. So it was like
Uh,
really driven in. And I watched one of those. I like watching like alien movies and ancient alien stuff like that. I just get really excited about ancient mysteries. But there was I was watching some show on UFOs, and they were interviewing people that had seen UFOs and had been abducted. And the so I'm in my 50s. So these people that they were interviewing were in their like late 60s, early 70s, and they were talking about experiences that happened to them in the 80s and how they couldn't tell anybody. They wouldn't tell anybody that they saw a UFO. They wouldn't tell anybody that they'd been abducted by aliens because they didn't want anyone to think that they were crazy. And I just just watching that, I was like, yeah, it was so thick back then. And I think it's still very, very thick. The
yeah.
density of this information being accepted in the world. So thanks for it does take some courage to talk about it for sure. I'm learning that
It
myself as I'm unwinding all of these old programs in my own being, like, oh, there's another one. But
yeah,
yeah, so tell us, so how do you
does.
want to start this conversation?
Yeah, it does take courage, and I won't deny it. And even before this meeting, I was thinking of that line from Stevie Nicks' song where she says, "I keep my visions to myself."
Ah, yeah.
And then I was thinking how I'm not keeping my visions to myself. So anyway, I'm of your generation too. So the first experience was in 1996, and I didn't tell anyone about it for a very long time. So anyway, though, in 2019, and this is an interesting thing, which I've heard other people who have had experiences say that oftentimes these experiences happen after we go through some kind of hardship in life. I had gone through some major surgery and major health problems. And a few months later, it was a long recovery. And so, as you can imagine, that was very challenging and draining. And a few months later, I was in bed at night, and all of a sudden I woke up and I could see the room around me, but I had sleep paralysis, which is something I've never had before in my
I've
life.
had a couple times. Yeah, it's freaky.
And this is the only time I've ever had it. And I was able to look around and see the room, but I couldn't move my body. And then I became aware of being in two places at once. So I could see the room around me, and I was also in a black void
So when
out
you
of
were
my body.
seeing the room around you, were you seeing the room around you through your eyes?
Yes,
Your eyes were open. And
my
then
eyes were open.
the black void, you were in another dimension. Your consciousness was also in another dimension, and you were seeing a black void.
Yes, it was like I was in that dimension, but aware of seeing the room around me with my eyes
Oh,
open.
interesting. So it was like your consciousness was in this other realm, looking through your eyes at the room around you.
And also being aware of being in the other dimension. And the started black, and then it became sort of brown. Like,
Mhm.
there was a little bit of light, and I could see that there were two beings with me, and they were very, very tall, and they were emanating the most just clear compassion and love. And one felt male and one felt female. And they had various things about their dress and their faces. Like the male one seemed to have a little bit of a beard, but they were really tall, so I couldn't quite see their faces. I just felt the emanating compassion and their long robes, long brown cloaks, but not hooded. You know, I could see their faces and long, radiant garments underneath those cloaks. Um, and I felt like I was a beloved child,
Mhm.
and they were my beloved family. And but except that I knew that they were very high level, multidimensional beings. I didn't know from where. Um, I just knew that they were very high level, and then I came to know that they were a type of creator being. So not like the God self.
Like the Elohim, I think.
That is the word that comes closest to describing it. That when I tried to research afterwards, I was like,
Yeah.
I think this might have been to Elohim,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know? And then I'm thinking maybe we're all sort of connected to Elohim as our higher soul through various stages. And so these were the ones that I'm connected to, I guess, because I felt
Beautiful.
like family. So, and I feel like we all of us, each of us have our Elohim. So anyway, they showed me something. They said, look. And so instead of looking at them, I turned around and they were right behind me. And it was like protecting, beautiful feeling. Not that I needed to be protected against anything, but it was all kind of strange and new. So it felt comforting.
Yeah.
And they said, look. So I looked ahead and there was a shape sort of hanging in the void and it was letting out light. And that's also why it wasn't a black void anymore. It was kind of brown because it was letting out a low light. And this shape was spherical and it was sort of the color of a latte coffee. And it wasn't like shining, emanating. It was just very gentle, emanating. And it was a sphere made of spheres,
Yeah.
kind of like when cells divide.
Yeah.
Or
The flower of
later,
life. Yeah.
yeah, the flower of life, exactly. So later on, I researched it and I was like, okay, that's the flower. That was the flower of life. It's part of creation.
Yes.
Of all forms start with cell division and make these little spheres made of spheres.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, the eyes of a mayfly. If
Yes.
you go online and look at them magnified, it has something similar to this. So and so I keep this with
Beautiful.
me. This is
Yeah.
a two-dimensional image of the flower of life. Anyway, so each sphere, it was like bubbles.
Hmm.
And each bubble was a spherical fountain. And so it was rotating its own matter, if you will, energy, light. I don't know what it was made of, but it was rotating like a fountain, like a liquid, coming up the center and out the sides and down and around and then back up again and again, but in 360 degrees. The
Yeah.
whole thing was doing it, which later I researched and found out is a toroidal field.
Toroidal field. Yep.
All just fascinating and
It's
amazing.
it's amazing. Yeah. Like you when you're seeing something like that and then you go find out what it is and it's like a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. What is it? I telepathically asked because you don't need words
Yep.
when you're out of body. And they said telepathically, uh, look closer. So I just was able somehow to zoom in, magnify my vision of this thing. And so then I saw, like, say, one sphere, and all the spheres were doing this. But instead of it being liquid, it was many, many, many little lines. And they said, look closer. So I zoomed in a little more, and each of these little lines was made of code. And
So interesting. Okay, keep going.
this, I'm not a mathematician.
Yep.
I wish I was because I probably would have recognized some sort of pattern within the code. But I knew enough to know this is a pattern, this is a code. Um, and so then I asked them telepathically, what is this? And they said, this is all creation. And so the way I've made sense of that later on, because they didn't then give me a whole lecture, they just give you these seeds, you know, like the seed
Yeah.
of life, our
You
life,
figure it out.
basically, which is so perplexing. But the code of creation, all creation, and so there are many codes. I imagine there's like pi, right? That's a mathematical type of sequence. There's and I'm terribly illiterate, but I know there's this thing called the Fibonacci sequence,
Yep.
and that this is how growth occurs in plants and probably humans too. So that very much has to do with creation. So
Yeah.
basically, it was like a blueprint of creation, but it was more than that. It was creation as it is happening right now in the moment. And each of those codes was, I don't know, it was either an individual or a soul family or something. But now here's where the question is like, was that it from a much magnified pulled out perspective, whereas if one was in it and immersed, we would be having, the maybe the heavenly realm reality where we see when you hear about near-death experiences where they walk through these beautiful fields and they see gorgeous buildings and their flowers and that are aware and or was it our that and our 3D reality that when we're within it, we see all that we see, and this was, just from a distance how it was created? I don't know. Or was it a blueprint, a representation of it, except I got the feeling that it was it as it was happening. Like, actually, it was all creation. They don't lie. That is all creation. They didn't say that represents all creation.
That is all of creation. Yeah, because so they're standing in the void, which
It's
a
out.
lot of people, yeah, a lot of people imagine like the black space or the dark space as negative or as evil, but it's actually like the womb space. It's like the container for all it's the black space, the voidal space is like the holding tank for the material world, the material existence to birth from or to be in held within. If you think about the night sky, the star is the matter and the black space around the star is the container holding everything in place or moving through, right? But
Beautiful.
so if you actually like travel to this dimension with the Elohim creator beings, they're like, yeah, this one cell is all of creation. It sort of gives you like they're like, take a look. Like it's a very tiny thing. Like your problems are even smaller, right?
Oh my goodness, yes. And I love how you're calling it a womb because then this flower of life, this cell, this zygote is right there within the womb of creation.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, like the right, the flower of life, the cell division is inside of the womb of creation. Yeah, cool. So,
Yeah,
did you expand way out, or did you go into somebody's womb? That's like another whole concept to think about.
I did not,
Maybe we
but
became
yeah,
like,
that's a wild concept. But I did see, the code, and I was like, okay, there's something to this, or what is it? It's all creation, and um, and then they indicated to me, ask it for something,
"Hmm,
which was like, I could do that. How? I was confused. How do I do that? And they just were like, just ask it. And I think I was again, how? And they just said, or what do I ask? And they telepathically said, whatever your heart desires.
mm, wonderful. I love this conversation."
And honestly, I was so flabbergasted by the whole experience that I couldn't think of anything that my heart desired, so I kind of got stuck. I glitched. I
Yeah.
was there just trying to think of something that my heart desires. And I was
But
also very
you were like in the womb of all creation, so you were
sleeping.
experiencing like the ultimate fulfillment of your being. There was no desire. Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't need anything at all. So later on, I realized that that's actually an indication for us all to interact with the code of creation through our heart by setting our heart's desires out into creation, giving through our good, loving, and compassionate intentions. Well, any intention really, you get what you put out.
Right.
So what you're putting out from your heart is what you get back, and that's how we interact with all of creation. Um, and I had not heard Abraham Hicks yet. I didn't know about the law of attraction, but very soon after I was researching and I found that. So
Yeah, so
it
let's recap. This experience happened for you in 1996. Is that what you
no,
said?
that was the first experience. This is 2019,
Okay.
and
All right. So more
this
recently.
yeah, and this was the one true OBE because my eyes were open, and I want to say I was so sleepy because my body was trying to sleep, you know, even though my consciousness was somewhere else. And I could see the dark room around me and little light coming in from outside. It was very tranquil. And I kept sort of falling back into sleep. And they kept waking me up. They
Wanted you to remember.
kept saying, look. That was what
Mm.
telepathically they kept saying, look, every time I started to drift off. And so while I was stuck in that glitch of trying to figure out what to do with all of this, I kept drifting off and then they look. And so finally, and I have to tell you, I kind of have an inkling that took about 5 hours, this whole experience, because I had gotten up and seen the time at midnight and then gone back to sleep. And it felt like very soon after that this began. And when it was over, I got up again and I saw that it was around 5:30 a.m.
Okay.
So anyway, I kept trying to fall back asleep and they're like, look. look. And so finally, I was just kind of like, thank you. My heart's desire. What should I do with this? And they said, well, you could. It was sort of like this sort of tentative, you don't have to, but you could tell other people about it. You
Okay.
could let them know.
Nice. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, all right, that sounds kind of scary, but I'm okay with it because this experience is so overwhelmingly amazing and real.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people who won't believe it, and that's fine. But I know what I saw, I
Right.
know what I
Yep.
experienced, and it was real. And I want other people who have had similar experiences, or maybe someday will, to know that it's possible and that they're not crazy, and that the Elohim said, find your heart's desire. We can all have our heart's desire. So, yeah, start thinking in terms of what you want out of life. And, instead of, well, like Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction says, if you put out negativity to get what you want, you're just going to get more negativity. And I'm not saying to spiritually bypass and become just a toxic positivity kind of person, but there are ways that we can move through, and as a therapist, I work with people a lot on this. There are ways that we can move through our emotions, our negative ones, with love and compassion for ourselves and patience for ourselves and for others. And there are practices that we can implement, like gratitude practice, to raise our just sense of well-being and hopefulness and optimism and positivity. And we can do vision boarding, and we can do journaling, and we can envision the life and the person who we want to be, like Joe Dispenza says. And I didn't know any of this at that time, and step into that life through that, putting our heart's desire towards what we truly want to be, rather than just sort of negatively thinking about, like, well, I wish I could be that. Other people have it easier, which maybe they do. That's reality too. But it doesn't mean that we can't have ideas and put ourselves into those ideas and create our reality.
We absolutely can. We absolutely can. I have been practicing this for many, many years, creating my reality. My closest friends are like, I like how you live, but I don't know how you live. I don't know how you make it happen. I don't understand it. And I'm just kind of like, it's magic. It's magic. But what you're saying in regards to keeping it positive, and you can either manifest through, look, my opinion is that we're manifesting all the time. We're manifesting all the time, and that external world is just a reflection of what it is that is within us and where we're manifesting from. And so you can manifest through negativity, but you get results that aren't what you want, really. Or you can manifest through positivity and receive the results that you want. But the trick is, and this is where the psychology comes in, and where it's great to have a counselor or a mentor or a teacher to help you see, how do you move from negativity to positivity? Like,
Uh-huh.
what does that journey look like? Because it's not, I mean, people can go around bypassing and pretending to be negative, or sorry, pretending to be positive all the time when underneath they're suppressing. That
Yeah.
suppression doesn't go unnoticed by spirit. That's
Yeah.
there, and it's also going to be reflected. So I've noticed, um, I don't know how much about me you know, but I was living in Kingston, New York for a long time. I had a True Light Healing Center. We did a bunch of classes and personal sessions up there. And I kind of looked around at my life at one point, and I'm like, I kind of have everything I ever wanted except for the lake house. Like, I've got plenty of morning time to do my artwork. I'm seeing people. I'm getting my spiritual on. I got great spiritual community, great friends, great partnership. But I don't have my lake house. And I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm doing. I'm going to have a lake house now. And so I started a journey of focusing my intention on that. And it took about 6 months until finally one day I was walking from my meditation space to the kitchen, and I'm getting coffee. And I thought, man, I really need to make some more money so I can get this lake house. And I literally heard in my head, like, we're talking about telepathy, I heard my guides in my head go, that's a limited belief.
Ah.
And I was
Huh.
like, huh, you're right. Okay. I don't need more money to buy a lake house. I can have a lake house now. And I just started to say that to myself over and over and over again. It's like you're reprogramming your thoughts, but with the repetition. Because
Mhm.
the interestingly enough, I probably said it a million times. I need more money so I can buy a lake house. But on that particular day, it was like, this is the last piece. So I pulled that last piece out,
Hmm.
and within 2 weeks, this lake house came into my life. And it was another process before we were able to own it, but it
Mhm.
showed up through my field, came through my mom, through her friend, and
Oh.
now we have a lake house. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
pretty amazing.
Magic.
Magic, magic. So now I'm in this process of up leveling the business and my impact with people. And what's being reflected to me right now is
Mhm.
all of the skeptics.
Mhm.
Like everybody that's like, oh, telepathy's not real. And I'm getting so angry and so triggered. And I'm like, ooh,
Oh.
what is
Mhm.
this? Ooh, this is some childhood mucky muck. And
Yeah.
yeah, processing all of that sort of thing. And I came to a really interesting, loving place with it last night for the first time.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah,
What was that?
uh, there is, so I discovered there's a pattern in me that wants to like defend the righteous, be righteous and defend people that are
Mhm.
talking about these sorts of things, like almost from bullies, right? It's like from bullies. And
Mhm.
so so yesterday or the day before, I spent like probably 6 hours trying to compile what I wanted to say about this guy who said something about somebody, and
Mhm.
I couldn't get it together. And then last night I just was like falling asleep, and I was like, look at all this energy you're putting into that angst of it. Like, what if you just love him and you don't have to fight it?
Mhm.
Like, what if you just
Mhm.
don't have to fight it? Why don't you just let him believe that and just,
Mhm.
it's not your battle, actually. So it just kind of unwound.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it happens.
So, yeah, and I think that's the difference between toxic positivity, negativity, and true positivity. Because true positivity does not discount the negative, it
Right.
just loves. It
Yes.
loves it loves regardless.
Yeah.
It loves oneself for having gone through those yucky feelings.
Right.
It loves the other for whatever it is they're going through, and it's grateful for whatever we have, that you know this life, a beam of sunlight through the window,
Yep.
you know
Yep.
and through that our energy, our vibration is elevated, and we attract more of the same.
Right. Right. So we hope you enjoyed that conversation with Willow. I was having a great time chatting with her, and the conversation went on for a really long time. So we've cut the video up into bite-sized pieces. This was part one, and we'll be rolling out the other, I think there's three more parts to listen to on different topics: alien abductions, out-of-body experiences, Kundalini awakening, Shakti put through dreams. It's really, really cool stuff that she had to share. And we hope you enjoy it. We hope you'll tune in. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this video. So if you are interested in learning more about your own extrasensory abilities and how to apply some of these spiritual principles to your life, we have recently developed some communities for you guys to practice in and learn from and enjoy. So check out the link below. You can join us in our True Light community, which is our emerging light worker community, and also the Awakening Your Light Body community would be a wonderful place to expand your self mastery of your own spiritual gifts. We hope you'll join us and see you on the inside. Stay tuned for the next episode with Willow. Adios.